But right now, of course, we are 17 days away from the NFL draft, and today is the debut of Nick's mock draft. Now remember, last year's draft was top 20 out of all drafts, according to the mock draft database, a database that tracks the success and accuracy of all drafts all around the world.
Thank you.
It came in top 20.
Thanks.
So pay attention. To start us off.
Is that true?
It is true.
Yes.
It is true.
Yes, to start us off, the Titans are on the clock.
They are. And again, 1.0 today, 2.0 next Monday, 3.0 day of the draft. So there is some fluidity to it, but as we sit here today, here's how we, the consortium, see it falling. This one's really just me.
Yeah.
All right, top 8. Number 1, no surprises. Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. It feels very safe that 2-3 is going to be Carter Hunter or maybe Hunter Carter. Right now, Abdul Carter pair him with Myles Garrett, Travis Hunter. Go to the Giants. He'd be your best corner and your second best receiver. And then KW is convincing himself taking the 10th best player is going to be the good decision there. I think the Patriots are going to have to as well. Weird spot if it goes like this for the Patriots, but they'll take Will Campbell. Mason Graham, our friends in Jacksonville, a couple which here today, help buttress that defensive line. He is far and away basically everyone's best interior defensive lineman on the board. Ashton Jeanty, 6 is obviously high for a running back, but Pete Carroll, short window you would think. He's there to win right now, get his, Marshawn Lynch. Mimbo to the Jets, play tackle for them. I feel like Aaron Glenn coming over is going to say, what worked in Detroit? We had an awesome offensive line built from there. And then Panthers got to add some weapons for Bryce. Tet McMillan makes a lot of sense there. Now, that's a polarizing prospect. Some people have him as a top 10 player. Some people have him as the 4th or 5th receiver. Yeah. I still think he's the best receiver. All right, we'll go to the next 8. At number 9, the Saints drafting Tyler Warren. I feel like the Saints are still believing they can compete right now with Derek Carr. I think that's foolish, but I think they're a foolish team. Tyler Warren, not a foolish player, and he should be able to have an instant impact. The Bears, I think, would love to take Tyler Warren, but if he's gone, help that defensive line, have someone opposite sweat. Mike Green, one of the only smaller school guys going in the first round for Marshall. The Niners, secondary losses this offseason, most notably Charvarius Ward. They get Barron from Texas. Cowboys have to get another weapon. If Jeanty's off the board, this is another one where some people like Ibuka, some people like Matthew Golden. Yeah, Luther. I feel like the Cowboys taking a receiver is very likely. Will it be Luther Burden potentially? Dolphins need help on the back end. Will Johnson. If Will Johnson had come out a year ago, he's probably the first corner off the board. Had a kind of a down year last year at Michigan compared to his standings.
Got hurt.
Exactly right. Thank you, Greg. And so he falls to there. James Pierce is a guy who probably has top 5 talent. Has a few, he's a wild personality, I guess you could say. Could cause him to drop a bit, but the Colts need the edge help. John Campbell, the Falcons, whose defense couldn't stop anyone. And Kenneth Grant, the D lineman from Michigan, goes to Arizona. Now to the second half of the first round. Feels very safe to say the Bengals are going to go defense. Malachi Starks, I think most people think he's the best safety in the draft. They've been trying to fill the hole from the loss of Jesse Bates for a few years now. Emeka Egbuka for the Seattle Seahawks. They lost 2 wide receivers. They have a great Ohio State wide receiver in JSN. They add another one to pair with Sam Darnold. The Bucs don't have a ton of holes, particularly on offense. Tight end might be one of them. Colston Loveland from Michigan goes there. The Broncos, I feel like, man, they are going with one of these great running backs in this class. Marion Hampton is like the comps you keep seeing from here, like a poor man's Derrick Henry, which would be great. And then Shedeur. The slide ends, again, with the mock drafts. There's no trade. Maybe someone would trade up, but if he is there at 21, I feel like the Steelers will take him at 21. Now, a guy that I would love to fall all the way to 31 to the Chiefs, I don't know that he will. Walter Nolan, a great D tackle from Ole Miss, feels absolutely like Harbaugh type of guy. The Packers need some edge rushing help. They take I was practicing this pronunciation all afternoon. I screwed it up. I apologize. Aziraku from Boston College. And then Jalen Walker is the player on here that I probably have sliding too far. He is potentially a top 10 pick in some mocks. Some mocks have him here. Jalen Walker, an excellent linebacker, probably could play the edge for the Vikings. All right, now to the final quarter of the first round. Texans traded away their star left tackle. They stay relatively close to home, get Kelvin Banks. The Rams, they lost Cooper Kupp. They add a wide receiver. I know they signed Devontae Adams. That's short term. Pook is already talking retirement. They add Matthew Golden. This is a very Ravensy pick. Just add another great defensive lineman from a blue chip school in Mikael Williams. We know the Lions. I feel like we know the Lions have to go D-line. Shamar Stewart from A&M, and then another, his, kind of bookend pass rusher, Nick Scorton, from A&M goes to Washington. The Bills. Damar Hamlin is a great story. He probably should be, your sub-package safety, not your starting safety. Amanawari would be an excellent addition there. The Chiefs go tackle Josh Simmons from Ohio State. And a very Eaglesy pick to finish off the first round. Guy who doesn't have to play right now, but has massive upside as a potential long-term Lane Johnson replacement. There is mock draft 1.0.
We'll dig into it. First up, the Shador slide was happening in this mock. Past the Browns, past the Giants, past the Saints to the Steelers at 21. Greg, is this a win for everybody if this happens?
Well, obviously for Shador, financially, it wouldn't be ideal. Mm-hmm. Because you don't get that money up front, that money that everybody's looking for if you're a top 3, one of those guys picked early. However, culture-wise, stability, this would be an ideal situation. And I know some might question, well, what have the Steelers been able to do when they get quarterbacks? They haven't blossomed their quarterback picks as of late. However, Shador, if he's able to start, you want him to start. He will be starting with great weapons with what they have currently as it stands. With George Pickens on one side, obviously DK Metcalf, you got a solid running game, you got some veteran leadership up front with the offensive line. So you have a culture that understands how to win. They just haven't won in most meaningful football games, which we all identify as the postseason. But if you're Shador, this isn't ideal. And I don't know if he gets past Cleveland, which I don't know if Cleveland's going to overlook him because that need is so great there. If he gets past Cleveland and New Orleans, as you mentioned, if they don't pick Shador, this is where he probably ends up.
Look, a slide is an insult. A slide costs you money, so I don't like it. I love it! I love it! All right, this is where I want Shador. I would like him with the Giants. I love him with the Giants. But outside of that, this is where I want him. For all the reasons Greg said.
All right, what about the Aaron Rodgers?
Can I say just
go.
He could be behind Aaron Rodgers piece of it? If I am a young if I'm someone close to Shador, I was going to say if I'm his dad, but his dad's Deion Sanders, so that doesn't really why do I trust that the Steelers have the infrastructure to develop a quarterback? So I know we say, like, oh, yeah, it's better, you slide, you go to a better team. I understand the Steelers are a good organization, but the Steelers, I don't know that I trust Arthur Smith. I don't know that I trust, with respect, Mike Tomlin as far as the offensive side of the ball to develop a quarterback. So that, you know what I mean? Like, that's where
hear you.
It's not like what I think would be great for Shador, I didn't have it happening, but if he's on the board at 26 and the Rams are like, you know what? Stafford flirted with, retirement or whatever, a place there where it's like, okay, I don't have to play for a year, offensive line, great, but I don't look at the Steelers, even though the Steelers are a good team, I don't look at it quite like that.
I hear what you're saying. Arthur, he's fine, but I would love him with a McVay or, I would love, if this happened, I'd love for the Steelers to really get some offensive gene, like a Ben Johnson type in there to work with Shador. That said, the last time they did have a good quarterback, it was Ben Roethlisberger, and obviously they developed him fine. I just think a lot of these guys, Pickett, Rudolph, all the guys they've had, haven't really been very good. So I hear you. They don't. I mean, even their great quarterbacks, Bradshaw and Roethlisberger, haven't been like prolific for the most part as far as stats. But I think the winning culture, he'd have an immediate chance to win. And if he just, plays on time, he could have success early. and that would be good for him.
Do you
lot
think
of-
this?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think this kills Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh if this happens?
I don't think it completely kills it, but it definitely diminishes the potential of it happening.
Then what does Rodgers do?
The Vikings are still one of those teams that are out there. But for me, when you look at Shedeur in comparison to some of those other guys, like mindset is everything. How you feel about yourself, how you view yourself matters. When you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett, they wanted to get a home guy. They felt like can't pass up on the guy, and then he goes somewhere else, and he's been in our backyard. Let's go and give him a shot. They miss on that. Mason Rudolph obviously coming in behind Ben Roethlisberger. The issues between those relationships, and then the struggles early. The mentality is not what you would be taking on with Shedeur Sanders. He has every ounce of confidence that you want in a quarterback, regardless of what he turns out to be. He has the belief that he can get it done.
I believe that he's super confident. Nick, this is a question for you, and then we'll move on. If the Giants pass on him, need a quarterback of the future. The Browns need a quarterback. The Saints need a quarterback. If you're the Steelers, like, man, why are all these other teams?
Well,
Tom Brady and the Raiders decide to go a different route. It just is odd that all these teams would have an opportunity to get Shedeur and said no thanks.
So I think that kind of like draft slide contagion sometimes does happen. I agree. I think it would be different, at least to me, if there were a bunch of teams that we knew had to draft a quarterback.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the Jets signed Justin Fields. The Raiders just traded for and gave Geno a bunch of money. The Saints are really poorly run, and they do have Derek Carr.
And they have needs
and
everywhere,
correct.
too.
And so that, you know what I mean, that could be justifiable. I want to be, for the mock draft, we don't do trades because it's too, kind of wacky to do. If this scenario were to play out, I personally would expect either Cleveland or the Giants to trade up in front of Pittsburgh to grab it. That they would, you know what I mean? If Shedeur is there at 18, that they are calling the Bucks and the Broncos saying, hey, what can we do to trade you the 34th, 35th pick to move up to 18, 19 to get Shedeur, or the 19, 20 to get Shedeur? That's what I would imagine.
Okay. Moving on to the Raiders. Ashton Genty going to Vegas at 6. Year of the running back. Is a star running back a must for Pete Carroll's Raiders, bro?
I mean, I wouldn't say a must because they got a lot of needs. I mean, receiver, cornerback, the line. Like, they've got needs all over. So I don't think this is an absolute must. You're right when you talked about Pete Carroll and the strong running games. And even the Raiders, I mean, the last time they were even close to a solid team was when they had Josh Jacobs and he ran the ball well for him. So I get it, but if they don't pick a running back, I'm not going to be like, oh, my gosh, they blew it, because I think they have so many other things they need to fill. And they got Raheem Mostert, who's, pretty good. So I think he could fill that void for them right now if they want to patch up something else.
Yeah, stylistically, it just makes sense. It's not a must, but stylistically, with both guys just mentioned it, understanding who Pete Carroll wants to be offensively, he wants to establish a running game to support his quarterback. He knows what Geno Smith provides. And they already have a great pass-catching tight end that you can split out. So you have a little bit of wiggle room. I know you want more skill position guys, but if you get a running back in that division that can then that affords you the opportunity to pound the ball, kind of keep the ball away from the quarterbacks that you're facing in that division, I like this pick for the Raiders.
If they take Genty, I'll pick them to finish second in the AFC West.
Wow.
Really? Yeah, because the benefit of the last place schedule to go along with going from a coach who, with respect, I do not think was ready for that job in Antonio Pierce, to a great coach in Pete Carroll. Going from the second or third worst quarterback situation in the entire league to a guy who's going to flirt with top 10 status, Geno Smith. And then all of a sudden, what, bro? What's the
flirt with top 10? I like
he did
Geno,
it.
but
he did. He has the last
really?
2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last year he flirted with top 10?
Yes, the last 2 years.
I think passer rating, it was way,
passer rating is not the
down.
only stat.
I'm just saying.
I know you love passer rating.
No,
It's
I'm
the
just
only way
saying.
to prop up Brock Purdy.
No,
but
top 10?
I think he led the league in completion percentage one of the last 2 years.
2 years ago.
I think no. Over
2 years ago, he flirted with top 10.
Over the last 2 years,
last year.
Cumulatively, he has flirted with that top 10 stats. But that's fine. Let's just say 15th. Whatever it is a massive upgrade at those two spots. A softest schedule in the division, and an instant impact running back. I absolutely could see the Raiders winning 10 games. And I think Pete Carroll is there to win right now, not long term, right now. And so I think they need receivers too, but receivers are less of an instant impact than this play.
All right, head to Dallas with the number 12 pick. Take Missouri's Luther Burden the third. Greg, do you like this pick for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I definitely like a receiver for the Cowboys. Whether it's this pick, whether it's Luther, whether it's Matthew, I don't think it'll be Ted McMillan at all because he'll probably be off the board. But for me, the Cowboys, you have to give CeeDee Lamb, and not only CeeDee Lamb, but obviously Dak Prescott, someone else. With the injury history that Dak Prescott has had, if you don't have another viable option that a quarterback can step in there and then he eliminates some of the stress off of a receiver that carries even some weight right now with your quarterback being Dak Prescott, you have a problem. When you look across the league, the teams that go far, the teams that have depth at receiver, guys that can take some of the weight off their primary number one guy because they have whether it's a 1A or a solid 2, they do very well. So I think the Dallas Cowboys have to invest in this position.
Well,
look, I agree that a legit number 2 receiver will help them a bunch. Obviously, they're putting a lot on Dak's shoulders, but I think they need a running back. And I hope they get Genty. I don't know if he'll fall, but like you said, there are a couple other guys that they could get. And you look at Schottenheimer, Brian Schottenheimer, when he was with the Jets as the OC, Thomas Jones led the league, at AFC in rushing, I think. You know, obviously in Seattle, it was a lot strong run game. So I think Schottenheimer wants to establish the run, and I think so. Hopefully they can get Genty. He might not be there, but I think they need a running back even more than a number 2 receiver in Dallas.
See, what I think what's tough for the Cowboys in relation to Genty is even if the Raiders don't take him, if he is there at 10, it just seems like the way to really put a final piece on this Bears offseason of supporting Caleb is to draft Genty.
No question.
You know what I mean? And
yes.
so I just don't. I think
he
the
won't
Cowboys it's almost impossible. No, I shouldn't say that, but I'd be shocked if he's there at 12.
So if he was there, you think they should take him?
Absolutely. I do think impact running back is a bigger need right now than wide receiver too, but I wouldn't overdraft a Marion Hampton, and it does look like from the guys who are doing, multi-round mocks, all that stuff, seems like there are a half dozen running backs who they think are going to go in rounds 2 and 3, that the Cowboys potentially could draft one of them, either one of the Ohio State kids, the kid from Iowa, there's a bunch of them. To me, and I tried to say it when we were doing it, this is less about the player, Luther Burden, from Missouri, and more about the position.
Yes.
Like, I could see it being Ibuka from Ohio State, Golden. Like you said, maybe Tet isn't the first receiver drafted, and Tet's I just think the Cowboys are either going Tyler Warren, Penn State, pass catcher.
I like that.
But if he's there, or the top receiver on their board. That to me seems
great.
Yeah. He'd be great for them.
All right, let's check in on the Chiefs with 31. You have them going with Josh Simmons out of Ohio State to shore up that O-line that was just manhandled in the Super Bowl. Just early on. It was just early and often. It was at the Super Bowl, and it was over.
They got all the way to the Super Bowl.
So, I mean, and then when they got there, it was just a disaster. They started scoring points, which once, Sirianni was covered in Gatorade.
Yeah, that's true.
Outside of that, holy cow. Is this definitely an O-line move for Kansas City?
I say no. It's not. I think because they traded for Jalen Moore, again, when you're backing up the GOAT, who knows if you're the second best player in the league? No way to tell. They have put themselves in a position where there is not a spot on the team that they don't have a guy in. So I think it's absolutely on the board. They go D tackle here. I think it's possible if one of the two, safeties that are, whether Aminawari or Starks is available, they go there. Or if, you know what I mean, they go tackle. I don't think they're going to go receiver again. I personally would be shocked if they go running back in round 1. And, but I don't, because they signed Jalen Moore, I don't think they look at it as, even if we have this guy as the 48th player, we have to take a tackle in this spot.
Yeah, I don't think they should feel like they have to. I actually do think Moore is going to be good for them. It's not a guarantee because he's been a backup most of his career, but I just think he's going to play well for them. But it never hurts to shore up the O-line. And like you said, they're pretty much covered in every other position. And this did pretty much cost them the Super Bowl, not having that offensive line together. So I can see them going for a guy like this.
Yeah, I think we all can see them going for an offensive lineman. But to your point, Nick, and this is why I don't think they have to address it, they draft so well, and I trust the fact that whoever they draft, they have a plan and a reason why they're drafting that player, because history tells me this team understands what they're trying to do long term as far as building out their roster. And so could they draft an offensive lineman? Absolutely. I don't think anyone in Kansas City at fandom will have an issue with that. They would be like, yeah, great pick. We needed an offensive lineman. But if they go somewhere else, they will have the faith in what they're doing.
They won 17 games. They've been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. They've earned.
Look, I give them credit. I don't need you.
I'm just telling you. I mean, they won 17 games. They won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls. They've earned some slight benefit.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.